Greetings, YouTube. I decided that today we need to end the week on an up note. And we're going to do it with an article that comes out of New Hampshire, believe it or not. It says that at Portsmouth, New Hampshire, the school board unanimously approved the school district's first ever policy dealing with transgender and gender nonconforming students. The school board chairman, Leslie Stevens, praised the board's passage of a new policy at its meeting Tuesday night at City Hall. It says requires that all programs, activities, and employment practices be free from discrimination based on sex, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Under the new policy, transgender students is described as a person whose gender identity is different from their gender assignment at birth. So what does this mean as far as the bathroom issue? Well, students will be able to use whatever bathroom they feel works best for their gender identity. And to cover all the bases, they have an individual bathroom for those that want additional privacy, because they don't want to have to make a decision between the feminine restroom and the masculine restroom. I still think that the fix here is pretty simple. We just have individual stalls that have walls and doors that go from ceiling to floor. That's it. Each stall becomes its own little room. I mean, it doesn't have to be all that elaborate. It's uses the standard steel prefab walls that most bathrooms have in the U.S. But you would just eliminate the whole problem, because then you could just have bathrooms, just restrooms. Anybody wants to walk in and use one, anybody can walk in and use one. Now, I've always heard the argument that they're terrified that men pretending to be women, which is a sideways insult and bigoted comment about transgender people, because the implication is they are pretending to be something that they aren't, that men pretending to be women will get into the bathrooms so that they can somehow take advantage of other students. Now, other places have had these kind of policies, and there have been zero incidences, zero problems. And as I've said in the past, I'm not sure what the men making these comments think goes on in women's restrooms. I really don't. I don't get it. Do they really think that women just show off their vaginas, or actually, I should say, their vulvas? They're just, woohoo! Is that what they do in the men's room with their penises? Do they just walk in and just start swinging it around like some tackle? I bet not. Because as I said, I'm 51, I've been in a lot of restrooms, and I've never had anyone expose themselves to me, ever. Never. So, I'm willing to bet that's what's going on in the women's rooms. No exposing. Now, if any of the feminine viewers of this video would like to inform me otherwise, that maybe there is some showing off of genitals in women's room that I am completely unaware of. But it's been a really well-kept secret, and none of the women I know, or am currently married to, or have been married to in the past, have ever told me about it. And I think I would be a little hurt that something like that had been kept from me. But you could inform me otherwise if you'd like. So I'm really proud of Portsmouth for doing this. I'm hoping that this will become a precedent and will eventually become a statewide policy, and of course eventually a national policy, because we really need this. We need to make sure that the members of our community that are gender nonconforming or transgender know that they're considered equals, which is why I use terms like transgender and gender nonconforming and cisgender, because the terms are neutral. I am not making a statement that one of any of these categories is the norm. I'm just saying that cisgender, transgender, nonconforming. It isn't that complex. And if I meet someone and they tell me that they're trans or gender nonconforming, I'm just going to ask them, okay, what pronouns should I use for you? What are you comfortable with? And then I will make every effort to use it every time. And if I screw up, I'll apologize. Because it will be sincere. I don't mean to screw up. I'm not saying I won't. But I'm pretty good at that. I know gender non-conforming and transgender people. And I've made it a policy of mine to use the pronouns that they want used. It's a really small thing. And as I said in the past, I liken it to a name. If someone says, call me Bob, I don't care what their actual name is. If they want me to call them Bob, my gosh, I'm going to call them Bob. Because they've asked me to. And that's courtesy. It isn't complex. It really isn't. A whole lot of social conservatives try to make it complex because they don't like it. It makes them uncomfortable. Remember, they're social conservative. They're all about no changes. In fact, they're all about rolling things back to some mythical 19th century era when, as far as they are concerned, the world was a better place. Well, at least for the category that they belong in. I'm sure that if they had any historical context, they'd understand that that era that they dream about so fervently was actually horrible for a whole lot of folks. So, kudos, Portsmouth. Glad to see you did this. And I'm hoping the rest of my state follows suit and the rest of the nation marches right behind them.